Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and today we have with us Vanessa Nixon. Vanessa is a traditional naturopath and author. She loves helping empower women to thrive during midlife, using nature as their guide so that they can make this most important, vibrant, healthy, and impactful phase of their lives through natural health, natural movement, and natural beauty. Here to share with us how to reframe menopause as a spiritual initiation. Welcome to the show, Vanessa. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you, Jill. I'm really delighted to be here, and I'm excited about our conversation.
Yeah. How did you get started in all of this? Because I'm sure you didn't just wake up one day and decide, oh, I'm just going to help menopausal women.
That's a great question. And there's actually two parts to that. My path in natural healing began when I was a young woman. I was chronically ill for a number of years through my late teens and early 20s. And my health was degenerating. I was kind of caught in a downward spiral. And I was following the conventional medical wisdom, seeing doctors, taking a lot of antibiotics. And toward the end of this period, I had been put on daily antibiotics for about 2 years. And so, as you probably know, that decimated my immune system. And so one day, a friend of mine noticed that I was taking antibiotics every day and asked why. And I told them the story of my chronic illness, which by that time had been going on for about 7 years.
Oh.
And he asked me a question that nobody in all of those years had ever asked me. He asked me, well, is it helping?
Yeah, right.
Such a simple question, but so important in so many different situations for us to just stop and ask ourselves, is it helping? I had never asked myself that question. And when I did, I realized, no, it was not helping. In fact, I felt even at that time when I didn't know anything about health or natural healing, I felt that it was making me worse. And he said, well, when I get sick, I go to see an herbalist, and I'd be happy to introduce you if you're interested. I had never heard of herbalism. I didn't know there were any other options other than conventional medical care at that time. And so that conversation was a huge turning point for me because it opened my mind to realizing that there were so many other options. It wasn't just there was one other option. There were many other options. And so it was just a huge moment of expansion for me in realizing that I had a lot more power in that situation than I had ever realized. I was at choice. And up to that point, I'd always given the responsibility for my health to somebody else. So that moment really changed the trajectory of not only my life, but my career. I went to see the herbalist. I was well in a quarter of the time than I usually was whenever I was in a bout of this chronic illness. And I was hooked. It was like, okay, not only is there another option, and not only is it working, but it's working so much faster and so much better. And I can feel the difference in my body. And so I started studying herbalism, and that led me to study nutrition and then homeopathy and flower essences. And eventually I got my degree in traditional naturopathy, as well as a master's in herbal medicine. And then the second part came when I started going through perimenopause. And by this time, I had spent several decades elevating my health to optimal levels and had healed myself of chronic illness, had been raising 3 daughters completely with natural medicine. And still, with the knowledge and experience that I had, perimenopause crept up on me without my noticing. And suddenly I found myself at a time of life where it seemed like everything was suddenly falling apart. I was having erratic mood swings. I was beyond stressed. I was in a marriage that was failing, and I didn't know how to navigate that. Um, my periods had started changing, and they had always been very regular. And it took me a while, because there was so many things going on at the same time. Also, my oldest daughter was going off to college, so I was dealing with, one of my children leaving the nest for the first time. So many things going on externally and internally, that it took me a few months before I realized, oh, I'm in the menopausal journey. I'm in that phase. And once I realized that, and I took a step back, and I realized I have tools. I have tools to deal with this. I have techniques. I know what to do. And I also realized that I had support. I had cultivated this beautiful network of amazing women around me. And I could lean back in that support, and um, and ask for their support and their help in navigating these very difficult situations. And it was those two things: the support, leaning back into that support and reaching out for new support, as well as realizing that I had the tools. I had the knowledge, I had the wisdom to know how to deal with this initiation, this initiatory period of life, which is so similar for so many women. And when I realized that we're all going through this, we all go through this period of life, and we all suddenly feel like everything is changing, whether things are breaking down or whether new things are happening. It's a period of life for almost all women where we come into a new space. There's a new energy, and we're not prepared. Our culture doesn't prepare us for this. And so many women are not prepared in their health either. They don't come into it having 3 decades of working on their health like I did. They don't have that advantage that I had. And so when they come into this and all of these things start happening, it really feels like for some women, they're losing their mind, or it feels like their body just, they don't recognize it anymore. It feels very unfamiliar, and they don't understand why, and they don't know what to do about it. And they might go to their doctor, and their doctor says, just, there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the way it is. Or,
let's give you some antidepressants.
yes, yes, let's put you on some medication.
Let's
And
mess up your hormones with hormone treatments.
exactly, exactly. And they don't feel heard. They don't feel like their healthcare practitioners are actually listening to what they are saying they need.
No, they aren't.
Right. And they don't feel that support, and they don't know where to go to get that support. And because nobody's talking about it, our medical professionals aren't taught anything about menopause. Um, so they don't know what to do. And I've heard a lot of doctors say, they actually would love to know what to do. They're clueless, because their training was very deficient when it came to, um, how to support women through this period of life. And
I
what I
wonder if
have
it
found
doesn't
is when,
start back even when you're first beginning your cycle. You're told to go to the doctor and he'll put you on birth control pills. And so that starts you down this path of medical interventions, which you really don't need. And then you have your babies in the hospital because God forbid you have them at home. Like it's not like you weren't equipped to have children at home. Just give on with your life. You're not sick. You're just doing what your body was designed to do. And then as your years go by, you're just like, you hit menopause, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now what do I do? So you've got all this experience of going and having these medical interventions that you think that, okay, so I just go and get hormone replacement therapy because obviously I'm broken,
mm,
rather than going to someone like you and getting actual help moving through the
yeah.
process naturally.
And I love that you hit on something that, um, that I really love speaking to, and that is that, especially for women, what we see is this pattern of the medical establishment pathologizing the natural phases of womanhood,
Yeah.
from first menarche through pregnancy through the menopausal journey. And those phases of life are not a disease.
It's
They're
just how we're created.
they're not, they are not ailments. They are life phases. And our medical establishment, and almost all the research that has been done, that our medical establishment draws from, are done on men. They're done on male subjects. And very little research has been done on women and the natural cycles and rhythms and phases of life that we are supposed to go through. And so doctors aren't taught that, yes, your hormones are supposed to be different in different phases of life. They're not supposed to stay the same. And so we don't get that in our culture. We're conditioned to think that, okay, yes, we have puberty and our bodies change. And because our culture, encourages the the youthful 20s, early 30s body of a woman, then
Idolizes
as
it.
we go through puberty, we look forward to those changes in our bodies, because that's what a woman is supposed to look like in our culture. Um, but then when we get to the other side of the reproductive phase of life, our culture tells us, no, you're supposed to keep looking like that forever. When, of course, naturally, our bodies, when they are done with the reproductive phase of life, our bodies are supposed to change, because our bodies, our hormones, were that way so that we could reproduce if we chose to.
Mhm.
We don't need the same levels of hormones. We don't need our bodies to function in the same way in this phase of life. And that's how it's supposed to be. And that is an opportunity for us. We were taught that, it's something um, that we're deficient in. In fact, the medical establishment has framed menopause as a disease of deficiency. We're deficient in hormones in menopause. It's actually framed as a state of disease. So no wonder women are confused and don't feel supported and feel invisible, and feel like there's something
Broken. They feel
there.
broken.
Yeah, and that's so sad that it really is heartbreaking to understand that that is what women are feeling. Many women, if not most women, during this phase of life, when this is natural, this is normal, this is what we're supposed to be going through, this is what we're supposed to look like, this is what our hormones are supposed to be doing. And in some cultures, especially some of the more ancient matriarchal cultures, women looked forward to this phase of life from
And
the
they
time they were
should. It's great. This is my favorite stage of life. I've had 5 kids. I've been through the gamut, and it's just like I can regulate my moods. I'm not really dependent on, where I am in my cycle when I wake up in the morning. And it's I have so much more power at this point in my life. Part of it's because, there's a certain give a flip aspect to it when you reach this point, because you're done with the childbearing years, and you're done with having to try to find that partner to reproduce with. And we are human beings. We do have some instincts for reproduction. We need them to continue on with the species. But you get to a point where that was before, and now that's opportunity. And it's really a great opportunity for women to just step into who they were really designed to be. It's not the end of your life, it's really the beginning, which I think is what you're all about. It's the initiation into cronedom.
Yes, yes. And, there are, as I said, other cultures that really revere this period of life because they understand that, as women, we have gone through so many things in our life. We have been in positions of leadership, in whether we had children, whether we were in a career, all of the experiences we've had. We're now in this position of holding wisdom, of being the matriarchs. And in some societies, that is why young girls looked forward to this. They knew that they were going to be in a place of leadership, of wisdom. They were going to be the elders of the community. And those were the people who were looked up to in society. Those are the people that the community went to for answers, for support, for leadership. And unfortunately, our society is not like that. And I think that's, um, why talking about menopause has been such a taboo subject, because that doesn't quite fit with the patriarchal structure of our society. And I think it's time to change that. It's time to start having the conversation. It's time to start the dialogue. And what you said about this being your favorite phase of your life, that's so true for so many women. Once they start to understand this is an opportunity. In traditional Chinese medicine, they call it the second spring, which is that it's a rebirth. It's like this is the second, third, or for some women, the second half of your life. You might have a whole other half of your life.
Mhm.
And for many women, this is the first time in their lives that they are able to focus on themselves and what they want to do with their life. The first half was all about maybe education, maybe building a career, maybe having a family, finding a partner. All of your energy was focused outward.
Mhm.
And for many women, this is the very first time they can actually reflect and be introspective and focus inward on what gifts do I have that I want to bring to the world? Now that I have done all of this nurturing and support, how can I nurture myself? How can I nurture my talents? How can I use this rebirth and this creative source energy that used to go into reproduction? Now we still have that same energy. We still have that womb space, whether we have a physical womb anymore or not, whether a woman has had a hysterectomy. She still has this womb space that is the seat of her creativity.
Mhm.
And we can use that energy to birth projects, new careers, books, um, communities, and our life's work. This can be such a beautiful, productive, impactful time. And I think that is what this time of life is truly for. It's for women to really comprehend the depth of their power and their unique magic and their wisdom. And how can we bring that into the world and make the world a better place with it?
Oh, I love that so much. It's just like it speaks to legacy building, which is
Mhm.
just whether you have children and you leave a legacy through your children or you don't have children. We are all here in the creative process where we are leaving a legacy of some sort, whether it's through connections with other people. And we all have spiritual children, whether they're physical children or just people that we meet, that we interact with. They become part of who we are and they carry on our message in the future. I know you've written a book, Metamorphosis, Rituals, Spells, and Natural Remedies for Peri, Mid, and Postmenopausal Women. You want to talk about that a little bit? I love the name of the book, just
Thank
right
you.
off the bat. It speaks to me.
Well, and I wanted it to speak to that magical energy and the metamorphosis of our menopause, because it really is that going into the chrysalis and feeling like everything's breaking apart or turning into goo, but it needs to do that in order to reform into this butterfly, into this beautiful new phase of life. And I think that when we understand that as women, it's a lot easier to navigate it than if you have no idea what's happening. And because this is a natural phase, because our body is meant to do this, our body knows what to do. Our body knows how to help us through this if we can lean back into our own wisdom, into that innate body wisdom we all have, and into that ancestral knowledge that, generations and generations ago, all women had this wisdom of how to use the plants, how to use food, how to use nature as medicine. And I think we all have that ancestral memory of that innate knowledge. And so this book is about helping us remember, how um, to um, to eat healing foods, how to use herbs as medicine, how to use energy, how to align ourselves, how to move our bodies in natural ways, ways that are natural to us. to keep that energy flowing. And so, you know, it touches on all of those various aspects of different natural modalities, whether it's nutrition or herbs or homeopathy, flower essences, energy practices. I talk a little bit about belly dance because that's one of the things I have my expertise in as a um, as a very ancient cultural practice that was designed for a woman's body to help her through these phases that she navigates. And so whether it's belly dance, whether it's yoga, whether it's Tai Chi, whether it's gardening, you know, really moving our bodies, getting our energy moving, unsticking those stuck places so that we can continue to go through those cycles that we go through. Even after our menstrual cycle has stopped, we are still cyclical beings. We still have rhythms that we go through, whether it's the lunar cycle, whether it's the seasonal cycles of nature, when we can be in tune with who we are as women, and when we can listen to those messages and that knowledge that comes through our intuition and use nature as our guide through all of these phases, then we can really find this higher optimal level of health that supports us to bring our dreams and creations into the world in a really powerful way.
It makes you happy. There's
Mhm.
a happiness element to just being able to be and to sit in the energy that is you. You're not broken. You're enough. You're created perfectly. Just allow it to be okay. And
Mhm.
I have to comment on this. You probably already know this, but your name means butterfly. And when you start talking about metamorphosis and chrysalis and stuff, it's just like, yes.
I do know that. In fact, when I was a little girl, my mother had a bookshelf, and you know, back then everybody had a set of encyclopedias and a dictionary, um, and my mother had this really thick dictionary, and the front of it was a regular dictionary, and in the back it had different kinds of dictionaries, and one was a name dictionary. And I loved going through the name dictionary. And yes, I always looked up my name. Vanessa is Greek and it means butterfly. And so I've always had a fascination with butterflies. And in fact, the image on the front cover of
Oh,
my
yeah, yeah,
book
yeah.
is of a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Um, and so it does have that double meaning of, yes, that's me. And that's I think it's so perfect because that's what my work is all about. And that's what this phase is all about, is that menomorphosis that we all go through, that we are at this moment in history, we have the opportunity to go through, because just 200 years ago, the average lifespan of a woman here in the United States was like 35 years old. So millions and millions of women throughout history have not had the opportunity to go through this very powerful initiation.
That a lot of them that did in the past, they were killed because they had this innate wisdom that threatened the patriarchy. And so many women were incarcerated because of, they called them mentally ill, and they did all kinds of like torturous things to women. Because when you reach a certain point in your life, menopause, you you become somebody else. It's not even a choice. You just you your body just moves you into the next phase, just as a young girl is not a teenager, is not a young woman. they change. Physically they change, but who they are changes fundamentally. And as you get older, you change some more. We are never the same being from day to day. We change every day. And it's you become so much more powerful. There's just like,
Yes, yes, I love that you're speaking to this. And I think about this evolution as you're becoming more and more of yourself,
yeah,
of who you really are. And sometimes we have to shed all of the things that have been placed upon us by society, by family, by, whatever we've experienced in our lives. And this process of menopause is a process of shedding all of that old, outdated, inauthentic, untrue layers that aren't really us. And finally, you know, getting rid of all that goo in this little safe chrysalis, getting rid of all of it, and then coming out as this beautiful new being that truly is who you are authentically. And and it's not to say that that's an easy process, because for many women, I mean, think about the caterpillar going into the cocoon and turning to goo. That can't feel great. That probably is very confusing and might be very difficult. And so I'm not saying that symptoms that women are having are not real, that it's all just, butterflies all the time. It's an initiation with everything that goes with the fire that goes with along with that initiation. And our innate wisdom, our bodies give us messages to help us know how to navigate all of those symptoms we might be having, issues that might come up. And nature provides for us so many tools, so many resources, so many techniques to help us to use these things that come up to expand ourselves even more into more power, more confidence, more impact, more of who we are to bring to the world.
and I love that this is happening now, because the young women who are coming up now are are starting to see older women stepping into, hey, you're just starting, baby. You have so much to look forward to in your life, because look, look what you can, what you have to look forward to. It's
Mhm.
not, you're not just like, okay, this is the pinnacle of my life, I better grab all the gusto while I got it.
Right.
You're gonna have so much more. And it's different from men. Men, they kind of peak around 25 to 30, and it doesn't get any better than that for them. Everything else becomes a struggle. They have different things, and they have different hormone cycles, and it's not that men are bad or anything, it's just they're different. And they will never understand or experience the majesty of becoming an older woman, or the cycle of life of a woman. It's it's such a gift to be a woman.
It is. It is. It's a wonderful gift, and men are wonderful.
Yeah.
And yes, their physiology is different, and their cycles are the cycles that they go through in their lives are very different. And they go through an andropause is what it's called
Mhm.
technically as well, but it is different. It's different from what women go through. And the cyclical nature of a woman is very unique. And it's one of the reasons women, I believe, are so resilient and are innately so powerful, is because throughout our entire lives, we have to traverse these cycles. We have to adapt. We have to be flexible. And that is what creates strength and resilience, is being adaptable to different circumstances. Being able, our bodies adapting to, um, you know, what happens during adolescence, during first menarche, what happens to our bodies during pregnancy and postpartum, and what happens to our bodies during perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause. All of those changes strengthen us and create more and more resilience as we mature. We get more resilient, and our bodies are strengthened, and we become more empowered. And one tidbit of information that I heard once that I just loved was about how one of the reasons that ancient cultures believed women were so powerful at this time of life is because they were giving their magic, their healing, through their menstrual blood throughout their lives. They're giving it out to their communities, their families, their children. They're giving of themselves. But after menopause, they retain that power and that magic, and they hold it within so that they can be such powerful leaders, so that they can spread such powerful magic in the world, so that they can truly use their creativity with such impact. And I love that concept, that once we hold our blood within, that creates such power that we can really change the world.
We are changing the world.
Mhm.
It's happening.
Mhm.
So you work with people, or women, in groups, one-on-one? How does all that look?
Mostly one-on-one.
Mhm.
I have three different branches of my business: the natural health, and then the natural beauty. I have my own natural cosmetic line. And then the natural movement piece is through the belly dance classes that I teach. But mostly I work with women one-to-one, and I help them to weave all of these things together to create a really strong foundation for their health, and help them to navigate these initiations, to traverse these waters that are very unfamiliar for most of us in our culture because we haven't been prepared. And so um, that way we can really do the deep work. We can really look at what's underneath everything that's going on and be able to create that resilience and that strength. And so we usually, start with nurturing yourself. How do you nurture yourself? Not only with food and drink, but in what you absorb in your environment, what you watch on your screens. Like, how are you nourishing yourself, body, mind, and soul? And then how can we use these other natural supports, whether they're herbs or homeopathic remedies or energy practices or movement? How can we use all of these things to support your health, to elevate it, to help you to find those stuck places, clear them out, listen to that intuition, strengthen that inner voice so that you can hear the messages that your body's sending you really clearly, and then be able to follow that up with action. So you can hear what your soul and your spirit really wants to bring out into the world, and have a healthy body to fulfill it, to fulfill that mission. We all have a dream, we all have a mission, we all have a purpose. And it's a lot easier to fulfill that if we have a healthy body, a strong, healthy body to enable us to do that.
It's really not as hard as it might sound. No matter when you're starting, it's just start.
It can be easy and it can be simple. I mean, the steps are simple. And, you know, I came from chronic illness where really my health had deteriorated to a point that I had very little immune system that was functioning.
Yeah.
And in a very short period of time, I was able to turn that around, taking a few simple steps. So yes, it can sound very complex. And that's one of the reasons I like to work with women one-to-one, so that we can break it down and personalize it to exactly what's going on with that individual woman and say, okay, well, here's the first step. Let's just start here. Here's a second step, a third step, and combine it together in a way that it doesn't feel like, oh, this is so much work. I've got so many things to do already. You know, that's one of the things that I think stops women is it feels overwhelming. Oh, I'm
The
going to
idea.
the way I eat. I'm going to have to change the way I exercise. I'm going to have to change everything. But really, just making it simple, going step by step, and weaving it together in a way that feels good instead of feels overwhelming. That's a really important part of making any change or shift in your life is it you need to it needs to align. You need to have that energetic alignment with it. And once everything aligns, it's so much smoother.
And your body will tell you, hey, this is working, or hey, this isn't working, instead of having to wait for somebody to come along and ask you, is it working?
Exactly, right. And that's why we need that connection to our intuition
Mhm.
so that we can hear our body when it says, nope, that thing is not right, but this is the thing that's right. And really, it's so empowering when we understand that we know, we have the answers. It's helpful to have support to be able to hear those answers when we are dealing with some challenging things, but it really comes from inside you. Sometimes we
And
need to
having
strip away
somebody
the
that says, yes, what you're hearing from your body is real. You can listen to it. Sometimes we just need permission to listen to ourselves. And you can't get that unless you go to someone else, because we need community. And, you talk about an initiation, and yes, butterflies go into their chrysalis, but and they're by themselves, but they're still in the world. They're not like going into something away from the environment. They hang their things on trees, and they're still part of what's happening around them. But when you're when you're going through changes like this, it's so much more impactful and helpful to have other women who are in the same situation to just sound as a sounding board, because sometimes you think things when your hormones are all changing that you're not really sure, is this right? Because I don't know, I haven't traveled this path before. Am I still on the path?
Mhm.
And just to have somebody say, yeah, that's totally normal.
Yes.
It's like,
As women, we are wired for that. We're wired for community. We're wired
mhm.
for collaboration. We're wired for cooperation. Community is so important, and that's one of the reasons that I, bring up that the two things that were key for me going through my menopausal journey were not only that, I had these tools and I just needed to remember to use them, but the support from my community of women was really instrumental in navigating the things that I needed to navigate in my situation. It made
and,
all
and
the difference.
sometimes it's just nice to have somebody say, no, you're not really crazy.
Mhm.
because you can start to think I'm going crazy. I'm
Yes.
having these thoughts and I don't know where they're coming from. And even
Yeah,
if you've
I've had
done
women,
years of self-care, it just,
I've had women say, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I
yeah.
feel like I am going crazy. And we can feel like that if we don't, because we, like you said, we haven't been through this yet. This isn't a life experience we've had yet. And because we don't talk about it in our culture, we don't know what to expect. And so, yes, just having other women who have walked that path to support you, just to be able to talk, to have these conversations, to have the dialogue. Younger women need to know what to expect so they can prepare themselves. And women
Mhm.
who are going through it now need that support as they're going through it. And, those of us who have been through this and who have been able to take the opportunity to see what a gift it is, have so much to lend to younger women, not only where they are now, but to help them walk through their own journeys.
For sure. Yeah. I remember asking my mom about it when I first started into it, and she was like, yeah, your aunt and I still have hot flashes. And she was in her, early 70s. And I'm like, oh, and that was all the information she gave me about it. Just like, that was no help.
Right.
And people weren't talking about it 15 years ago. But it's so refreshing to me to come across people like you who are talking about it and who are saying, this is just the beginning of something really special. And because I really do embrace this point in my life, and to get the opportunity to talk with people that are out there beating the drum. And there's different menopausal coaches for different flavors of women out there, because we're really varied. you know
We're all different. We're very unique. And I love that that speaks to the fact that there are options. That's one of the main problems that I see right now as people are starting to talk about menopause is, oh, the only option is to take hormone replacement therapy because this is a disease, as we mentioned earlier. And what I really want women to know is there are so many options out there if you're having symptoms, if there are some challenges. So many options. We're not limited to that. I'm not one of those people who says, all conventional medical knowledge is wrong. I'm much more integrated. I think that conventional medicine is great at some things and very poor at other things. And it's wonderful that we have so many options for all of those other things.
Mhm.
And so we're not limited. There might be some women in very extreme circumstances that really do need um, hormone replacement therapy for a period of time. But really, if that is you, go ahead and do what is right for you, and then have an exit strategy. How am I going to move to the next phase? How am I going to navigate this? And then what can I do to get off medication, to be able to live out this, really important phase of my life in really elevated, vibrant, vital health? Let's look at all of the options that are out there. And our bodies know how to navigate this.
This kind of brings us to the gift that you're offering our audience, which is 3 secrets to balance your hormones naturally, which is an on-demand masterclass. Do you want to speak to that for a minute?
I do, because there is a lot of kind of a groundswell around hormone balance. People are understanding that this is a really big thing, especially for women, because we go through very so many different phases of our lives, and our culture is so unhealthy, you know, not only just in the way that we're conditioned to think about our bodies, but in the food that's out there, and the environmental pollution, and all of those things affect our hormones. And so it really is key to keeping us in balance when you understand what's going on with your hormones. But one of the things that I see happening is that there's such a focus on just estrogen and progesterone. And ooh, we need to replace these. If you're having symptoms in perimenopause or menopause, we need to keep those levels where they were when you were in the reproductive phase of your life. And that's not a natural way to think about our bodies, is going backwards. We need to think about going forwards, where our hormones are supposed to decline, but they still need to be in balance. And so our bodies are designed naturally to be in balance through these cycles. And this masterclass gives some in-depth information, not only around, some of the more scientific information of what's happening with our hormones, but also what's really underneath, what's causing these hormone fluctuations, and how can we address those naturally so that we don't have to be on medication, so that we don't have to rely on other people or other institutions for our health. How can we be in charge? How can we be responsible for our health naturally, and allow our bodies to go through this natural phase of life and support it? What do our bodies need? How can we support our bodies so that they will in turn support us through this really vital phase of life? That's what that masterclass is all about, is teasing out the information around hormone imbalance and how we really can support ourselves, our hormone balance, and this phase of life through all of these natural options that we have at our fingertips.
So we'll put the link for people to get into that masterclass in the show notes. This has been an amazing conversation, Vanessa. I have really enjoyed it. You've shared so much information with the audience. What's the one thing that you hope that they take away from the conversation? I know we've covered so much.
There's so many important things, but I think it really comes back to helping women have the confidence to take ownership over their own health, to feel empowered, to understand I actually can be in charge of my own health, and have the knowledge to live a really healthy life for, however many years I'm blessed with.
Yes, that's so important. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk about these really important things and have this conversation. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.